Welcome to program. So glad to have you here with us. My privilege to welcome each and every one of us here on the call tonight. Um, we are going to have another interesting session this evening. We're going to have another interesting session this evening. So let's trust that God is going to help us and grant us grace to um, have a wonderful session tonight. So I'm going to invite especially Mr. Josiah Kwesi Eyison.
Great. Good evening, everyone. And it's a pleasure to be back with you in such a company. And today's session is going to pretty much look at God and creation and design. So once again, my name is Josiah, and it's a pleasure to be here. And today's session is looking at the divine blueprint, how science reflects God's creative design. And just gonna share my perspective on it, and hopefully it resonates with your perspective. And now, when we think about God, design, and science, I just need you to kind of open your mind up to a lot of the things that we are going to discuss today. The first thing that you have to think about is evolution. And that's one of the most touchy topics when it comes to God, science, generally speaking. And I want the believers to be on here to understand that when we talk about evolution, it doesn't mean that God is outside of all the process that is happening. If anything, God is involved in the process of evolution, and I will show you how. When you think about a butterfly, you first see this beautiful thing, but you have to know that it comes from somewhere. So when you look at the egg, that is the process of creation. That is God in action. Then when it moves to its different stages from the egg, it turns into a butterfly. That is where science comes in and it says it's evolution. But you see God's design in every single step that this thing is taken, all the way down to when it goes into its cocoon stage, then emerges out of the cocoon stage and then turns into butterfly. Now you have to think to yourself that God is still at work, even at the very beginning of the egg. That is creation. But as the thing moves into the cycle, science will call it evolution, but you can see God's design in every single stage out of this thing, where one process moves to another process, and that's what design is, moving from one process to the next. And that in itself shows you that God is involved in what we call as evolution. So I would tell the believers that anytime you're faced with that conversation around evolution, just know that evolution is God in creation mode, because evolution allows us to reflect God's foresight in creating systems that can then respond to environmental changes and continue flourishing. Why is this beautiful? Because we were created in God's image and likeness. So that means that in the process of us being created, in every single environment that we see ourselves in, we have to rebirth. We have to then create and make changes. And that's what evolution is. It's literally God's creation that you can see in mode. It's not away from God, but God is also involved in creation in itself. So do not detach the word evolution from God in itself. Now, when we think about exploring science and then how creative God can be, one of the verses that definitely comes to mind would be Psalm 139 and 14. What does that verse say? It's telling you that I praise you because I am fearfully and what? Wonderfully made. Now, when you look at this picture, you see people from different races, different backgrounds, and all of them are wonderful and fearfully made. And that shows you the beauty of God, that he makes you unique. He makes you wonderful. But you all share one similarities or the other. You have eyes, you have ears, you have nose, you have smile, you have teeth, you have mouth. All of these things that symbolizes you as a human being unifies us. By some strange reason, we all different in the way we're made. And that creation and its science and in design tells you how God is able to be creative. And how does this work? It's simple, really. You just have to look at the way our DNAs are structured. Now, often than not, when our DNA, we tend to call it the blueprint of life, because this contains the instructions for building and maintaining you as a living organism. When you think about a car has its engine, it comes with everything that needs to work, but then it comes with what? A manual, right? That tells you that something that was created has to come up with an instructions on how the thing supposed to work. And that's how your DNA is. Your DNA is your human instructions, your own human, I would say, manual that you have. See, so now that tells you that when you look at the analogy, it tells you the DNA is a highly computer code. And we all know that a code requires a programmer, just as a DNA would then require what? A creator. Now, there are some fun facts that when you think about DNA, it's an amazing concept. And there's some fun facts that you have to think about and think of when you put yourself in there, you think to yourself, how is this even possible? DNA, 1 gram of it literally contains enough data that's equivalent to what? 250 million gigabytes. No human being can create such system that can store that much information. That will point to a divine level of intelligence, a higher level of intelligence. That cannot be an accident. Your DNA is built to repair itself as it goes along. When something goes wrong, it repairs itself. That in itself tells you something is in works here. We are all different. Every human being is different. That shows you the beauty of God, the diversity, the genetic diversity that God gives us. So now one would then think to yourselves, but then God is about structure. But then creativity in design allows, then I would say, God to just show us his wonder. So in this case, I would say the DNA perfectly demonstrates the balance of that individuality and that order that also reflects God, who values structure and creativity at the same time. Now, there's so many ways in which you can then think about other things that reflect, creativity, design, and God, right? Now, it's always been said that what? You are what you eat, right? And in Genesis 1:29, it then says that I will give you, seed-bearing plants all over the earth that you said, and every tree that has fruits with seeds in it. And I need you to focus on the word seed in it that will be yours for food. So that means that a lot of us are eating food that don't have seeds in it. So we need to be very mindful when we eat these seeds, because they were purposely designed for you. Now, let me demonstrate how that works. When you look at your kidneys, they look like beans. Scientifically, you've been told that if you have problems with your kidneys or you want healthier kidneys, you need to eat beans. So that is God itself showing you in his own design things around you that you need to eat that is for your particular body itself. So you don't even need to go and research. It's there. He designed the seed, the produce, the fruits, and everything else to look like a specific part of your body, for you to know that if I eat this, This is what God wants it to then heal. So then the purpose of this is just as simple, but then it gives you the God's foresight in creating foods that then support our specific organs. So if you eat this specifically, it's for this. And one of the amazing ones that I always marvel over anytime I see it is a tomato. You look at tomato and you think, but this is just a fruit, because believe it or not, tomato is a fruit. We always think that it's a vegetable that is actually a fruit. Now, when you slice it open, it looks like the heart being sliced open. Because when you look at all the designs and everything inside of the tomato, it's exactly the same way that the heart looks. It just tells you that this is what you're supposed to eat for your heart. Now, it's not an accident that something like this has happened. No person can create something like this on purpose. It tells you that it is being done by design. This is somebody that sat down and looked at every single thing that he created in you, and then figured, if I create this fruit, it would help you heal if you eat this. It will make you better if you eat that. That is design and science at work. And then one of the last ones that will blow you away, and I hope you go in and see it. And remember what I said before, with seeds in it. A lot of us are eating all of these other foods that are not organic. Take carrot that is organically made and cut the top of it, and this is what you will see. It's telling you that if you eat this particular produce, it's meant to give you good eyesight. It cannot be by mistake. It clearly is by design. And this shows you how creative God is, by putting certain codes in the food that we eat in order for us to be able to know what it is that we eat and how well it will be for our body. Now, all of this, again, goes to show that just as a painter will use its own palettes of colors, different plates of colors, to then paint different artworks, God will use DNA as a universal language to create life and then show you how infinite diversity is. I will touch on the brain foods, right? We look at things like avocado gives you brain power. That's one of the best food to use. Ironically, avocados actually are good for pregnant women because it shows you the womb, you know, the way it's shaped and the seed inside of it. So that's nature talking to you. You have things like blueberries, which is also good for the brain. Things like walnuts is also good for the brain because the walnut, the way it's shaped itself, looks like the brain in its intricate design. So there's so many fruits that are out there, from banana that you eat that will give you that extra energy and extra boost that you need. So it's all around us, fun enough. Now, when you talk about agriculture, one of the first things that we need to do is we need to make agriculture cool again. We need to make it look attractive to the younger generation, so to speak, because when they think about farming, all they think about is old people doing it, and it doesn't look cool enough and tech savvy enough for them. There's so many things that we can do when it comes to technology and agriculture, where we call it Internet of Things, which is IoT. So IoT is literally connecting different devices together, make them communicate together, and then it works either way. So you can use it to check the soil composition. It will tell you the kind of vegetables or fruits or whatever that you want to grow at particular times in the year based on the nutrients that is on the earth, right? So when you build a system, you put it in the ground, you can do soil testing, and it will give you all that information. On your mobile phone, it will tell you if you plant this particular vegetable around this time, it will grow because of the soil composition. And then why is that important? Because these kids have these tools already, but they're using it as an informative platform. And then again, let's use the devices that they have already. So from the TikToks of this world and the YouTubes of this world, let's create challenges, something like grow your own food. Because once you grow your own food, not only are you saving money, because then we're teaching them how to be economic, but then you're also seeing what goes inside of you. So in this case, grow your own food and then determine what goes inside of you. Get the children involved in these kind of conversations from ground up, because I think, imagine if you did, one day you take your children to a farm so that they can trace how food got onto their plate, from, you know, the carrots that you're eating, from the meat that you're eating, how did it get into your plate? Once they see that, oh, so this is how it gets onto my plate, and if I want to be involved in it, this is what I need to do. And again, when you look at taking some of these fruits to certain areas that they don't grow, technology has proven that you can pretty much grow things anywhere. And this is where the godlike or the God-given ability that we have to create, we can create a conducive environment for anything to happen. We can build greenhouses that will grow particular fruits or vegetables in its safe environment. So we need to look at other things. There's this new thing, well, it's new, it's not new, but you can do it hydroponics, where it's literally using water. You can take like bamboo, drill water and hose inside of it, pump water into it, you put the plants on top of it, and then water flows, and then you don't need soils to do that. You could do that at home. Literally, you can literally take, I would say, plastic bottles that you have at home that you're not using anymore, link all of them together, grow your seeds in it, put water through it, and it will all grow. From cabbages to onions to peppers and all of these things, basic everyday kind of food they can grow by themselves at home. And it's something that parents can do. And parents can get involved with it with their children. And that also creates the bond. And I think when the children see their parents doing it and the joy that it brings, they will also get involved in it. So technology is great, but I think the parents also showing the kids some of these wonderful ways of growing food at home. And you don't need a big farm to do it. Hydroponics will let you be able to do that easily. It's just literally a water-based system that allows you to grow plants and vegetables without needing it to be on the ground. You don't need the soil to do that. And you can even do that to the point where you can even put fish and stuff in the system so they can see the fish eating some of the nutrients that comes off the plants, and it feeds and they grow, so that you see the cycle of life and the beauty of life in agriculture all at once. So you don't need land, you just need tools around you, and technology aids you in being able to do that.
Okay, I have a question too, and it's regarding like DNA. You know, I've read of like CRISPR technology. Can you explain that to us? CRISPR technology, all this trend towards transhumanism, trying to change our human DNA. I know that a lot of this technology is in the hands of the globalists. What do you say about that? How can we overcome those things? And how can we use it actually with a kingdom mindset? How can we use that technology, not for evil like the globalists are doing, but how can we use it to enhance society and our worlds?
I mean, this is a very touchy subject, right? Because it's one of those
Yes.
things when people look, you know, gene editing technologies that they use, right? So whether they're using it in humans, whether they're using it in agriculture, whether they're using it environmentally and all of those other things. And I think the question that you raise is very profound. And the reason why this is happening is because Christians or believers are disengaged, right? We think that God has created the world and that's it. And we've left it for the rest of the other people to continue to do any and everything that they want to do, right? See, so now let's bring it back home. Why are people trying to alter DNA? It's another way of the enemy or the deceiver trying to prolong its very end, right? See, so if we alter a DNA of a person, then that means that what? Are we having the conversation around, does the person have a soul? And if they have a soul, and then what does that mean? And then we're going into a rabbit hole. But then let's bring it back. The way in which Jesus said that if you believe in me, you will do far greater things than I have done, right? So that means that if you're going to do far greater things that I've done, and God has given you this immense code, because I created you in my image, and in my image you were created. That means I've given you the power to create. Now, we are in a world where kids are being born deformed, not because of creation, but because of environmental disorder and all of these other things. But then instead of God putting his hand and creating human beings again, he has given us that brain, that will to then utilize science to then hopefully help these other unfortunate situations that is happening. So if we're going to use, DNA editing or reforming or modification, we need to use it because we're evolving to help the human being survive. We are using it to help the human being live a comfortable life. Nobody should be born with extreme deformities where they cannot engage and even enjoy the beautiful world that God has given them. So I think as believers, we should not disengage from the conversation. The conversation should be, how do we use things like DNA editing and all of these other things that comes with it to still put us in that God path of creation? What are we trying to create? We're trying to create an environment that is conducive for us. See, so that if we have to use science to, let's say, modify some sort of something that's going to happen to a child, and we are able to see that, no, if this child was born this way because both parents have a genetic disorder. Typical example, when you look at sickle cells, right? Somebody that's got SS and somebody that's got an SS cannot get together, but then I'm in love with you, and because of this situation, I cannot enjoy a beautiful life with you, or we can't have a child. So does that mean that if we can use DNA and alter one of us DNA to ensure that we can have a beautiful child, shouldn't we do it? We should be able to do it, because in the end, we are going to bring a child into this world and then give them love, because that's what God wants us to be. So the question and the answer should be, as believers, we should not disengage from this creation or altering conversation. We should take center and know that we've been given the power to create by God, but using that power in a positive sense rather than disengaging and leaving it for the deceiver to then deceive other people to create the world in which they want to see it. I hope that kind of answered your question.
It did. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So thank you so much, Mr. Eyison, for that exciting presentation today. I think you're getting us all excited about science and technology.